broadleaf deciduous trees with deeply lobed leaves, right? So there are many, many native species of oaks. This is one of them, the northern red oak. Many, many species, sometimes difficult to distinguish from one another. So when you're learning your plant ID, as this gentleman over here has been doing, he was telling me earlier, there's a really quick thing you can learn to become an oak expert, all right? So if the lobes of your oak leaf are pointed like these are, and have little kind of like what we call hair tips on the end of them, the species belongs to the red and black oak group of species, okay? And you can figure that out. On the other hand, if the lobes are rounded and smooth, like if any of you belong to the Nature Conservancy and you have their oak leaf logo, the smooth lobes are the white oak group. So you're an instant expert. You walk up to an oak tree, oh, that's a red oak, you know, oh, that's a white oak, and you've got it made, all right? So there are a lot of other interesting differences between red oaks and white oaks. We'll get back to those in just a minute.
So the chemical that makes that oaks are used for tanning. The word tan comes from tannins that are in oaks, and red oaks have more tannins than white oaks. And so as we look at our feet, we see the ground is full of acorns. These trees produce acorns every year, but some years they produce a lot more. Those are called mast years, M-A-S-T. And I'm looking at the ground thinking this is probably a mast year. Yeah. And somebody asked, are they edible? Well, this would have been a food source for the lenape. There it is. You can eat. You can make a flour out of acorns. But bearing in mind that tannin story, there is a catch. The red oaks have a lot more tannins than white oaks. So white oak acorns probably wouldn't, even in a mast year, they would be collected by squirrels and other animals that are trying to save those for food almost right away. So the humans trying to collect them are in direct competition with the animals that are also trying to collect the mild white ones. Yeah, right there.
Does the tannins have a taste that's...
Yes, so here's the story of tannins. So tannins are in red wine and coffee and strong tea, and it's that chemical that gives you that feeling that the inside of your mouth might be peeling off, which is actually slightly true. I mean, not to scare you, because what the tannins are doing are they're binding to proteins. So they actually are binding to the proteins of your skin and kind of removing them a little bit. It's okay, your mouth regenerates really fast. So, but if you were a small insect eating those tannins, it would be binding to the proteins in your digestive tract, and you would be dying a slow, agonizing death. And before you died, you'd get a stomach ache that wouldn't make you want to eat this tree anymore. And so that's why the plant makes the tannins. So we know about it from our point of view, but you always want to ask, well, what's in it for the plant? Why is the plant making tannins? They're not tanning hides. And that's why it's a deterrent to herbivory. Now, if you like tea, you put a little milk in your tea. Sometimes it smooths it out, and that's the tannin, the milk protein binding to the tannin and kind of removing it from the flavor for you. So that's, if you ever oversteep your tea, try a little milk. That's the chemical reason why that will work. Right here at Vasser, Mark had an experience with trying to get calories from acorn flour with students.
So Laura's explained that acorns were an important food for Native Americans. The Native Americans, as well as the squirrels that we have here today, knew the distinction between white oaks and red oaks, and they knew that red oaks had a lot of tannins to be avoided. White oaks were much better, okay, in terms of doing things. So the Native Americans did collect white oak acorns and grind them up and make a flour and all that. So for a number of years, I co-taught a class with an anthropology professor on the ethnobotany of Native Americans in the eastern deciduous forest, so pre-European contact. So one year we decided we'd have a class project and we'd make our own acorn bread with acorn flour, right? So we got a stump of a tree and we burned it out so that we had a mortar, and we got a big branch to be our pestle for pounding and all that sort of stuff. We went out to collect acorns in the fall, and the squirrels had beat us to the white oak acorns on campus, so we had to settle for red oak acorns. We decided, well, we'll try it anyway. So we pounded up the acorns, put the mash in cheesecloth bags, and tried to leach the tannins out. And we leached them for about 3 days, and they were just groundwater all the time. Finally we said, well, the semester's moving on, we've got to get on with this. Let's go ahead and make our acorn bread, and it was literally inedible. So we learned the lesson. So the answer to your question is these are edible, but they're definitely not palatable with all the tannins in them right now.
So the white oak is more palatable?
White oak is better, is less tannins and more palatable and less work to produce something that you can actually stomach.